you have that one student. I know in the comments someone's going to say I have many of those students. All of this still applies. I've tried taking that student aside, I've tried building relationships, tried my 3 questions for redirecting students, but nothing seems to work. Instead, what you're getting is something like off-task behavior, students demanding things like,
I cut class, but you can't give me a 0 for that test.
Insistence on having like immediate attention in class. Maybe they're accusing you for losing their work, or they're being verbally abusive, like in front of the entire class. This can feel like an impossible student. The question is, what do you do? So this question comes from our Facebook group, Real Rap with Reynolds Teacher Talk on Facebook, which is a free Facebook group for everyone. I saw this posted in there and I really thought it deserved its own video. So that's why I'm making this video. And part of the post was this particular teacher whose name I won't share here, but they are saying that their fear is going to admin. That maybe admin won't believe how bad the behavior is. Maybe it will make things worse. Maybe that student will show back up in the class and become even more of an issue and potentially physically violent. And so although I've been a teacher for 20 years and I have dealt with a lot of students like this, I'm in no way like a behavioral therapist who has any special qualifications. However, having been through this situation any number of times and dealt with students similar to this, I wanted to share sort of my 2 cents on the situation. So first, I just want to say that this is a really brave question to ask. Those of you that might be dealing with students that are difficult, even not maybe even to this degree, but students that are difficult, there's a level of shame of going to the office, of going to administration, of going to another teacher, of admitting that you can't control something. Because as I've said before, teaching's the only job in the world where a brand new teacher is expected to deliver on the same level as someone who's been teaching for 30 or 40 years. And why? Because if you bring up a question like you can't handle a particular student, there's always somebody that tells you that they can, or they have no problem, or they try and like shame and blame you into feeling bad about yourself because this isolated situation is clearly a picture that you have 0 ability in classroom management skills anyway, and which is just not true. So I appreciate you asking this question. All right, so my first piece of advice here is that you need to take immediate attention. And what does that look like? You need to go to your administration and you need to go to the special ed office if necessary. So if that student has a 504 or an IEP, or there's some connection already to the special education office, you need to go there as well. I would also talk to a school counselor or a school therapist. I would try to create a small team around this situation. I would let all of those individuals know that you feel unsafe and that the student cannot come back to class until this situation has been remedied. I stand firm on this. If you feel unsafe, I'm going to tell you what, then that means the students in your class are also unsafe. And you're just putting this kid, the kid who seems impossible, in a predicament where, they're just going to end up getting themselves in further trouble. So we need to solve this or fix this or handle this situation as best as possible before that student comes back in the class and potentially harms someone else or gets himself in more trouble. And before we get to that point, question for you. Is your school looking for exciting, engaging, and practical professional development for this school year? If so, you can click the link below and I've included an email template to your admin, my speaking brochure, and a clip of me speaking. Everything you could possibly need to get the ball rolling. If you or your admin have any questions, please just hit me up in an email at realrapwithreynolds@gmail.com, and that's it. Hit it, buddy. Tip 2, seems like a given, but a lot of teachers don't do this that I talk to. There are a lot of teachers, so I'm gonna say this. Write up everything. What does that mean? Document everything in writing on some sort of school server, whether it's PowerSchool or Schoology or Google Classroom or whatever your school uses. Writing things down is important, and when they happen. There's too many times that teachers, and y'all know that you've done this at some point, where someone has a behavior in the beginning of the year. You let that behavior go, hoping that it's not going to turn into something more. And then it does. Over time, you get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, if I say something now, it's kind of like, why didn't I say anything all along? Because you were giving a kid the benefit of the doubt. Because you know that kids are kids. Because, whatever the reason. Maybe it's even because you didn't know how to deal with it, or you felt foolish going to someone. Whatever it is, the buck stops here, whatever that means. I'm not really sure never mind. Anyway, you need to immediately document as much as you can so that there's something to go off of going forward. We're not documenting behavior always to get kids in trouble. We're documenting behavior so that there is this written document that we can reflect back on. There's too many things that happen in a school day for me to remember all the stuff. And I don't just document stuff because here's all the bad stuff we did. It's here's where we are, where are we going to grow into? And the third part of this plan is you have to have a plan on what to do going forward. So I made a whole video on this, and I don't usually offer this, but I'm gonna offer it. It's a video training that I made. I'll put it in the description below. But in these purposes, I want you to know that one, with regards to a plan, I will never, if a student is getting explosive, they're doing way too much where they are demanding attention and a lot of the other behaviors I mentioned earlier. Do not have a confrontation with a student in front of the whole class. It never leads to any good. Having power struggles, I made a whole other video on this you can check out up here and I'll link that as well, but never have a power struggle with a student. Instead, stay cool, stay calm, and have someone at the ready that you can hopefully text. If you have to call, don't make the call a big deal. So you never want to get in a situation where you're looking at a student going,
I'm about to call the office. I'm going to call your mom right now.
All you're doing is pouring gasoline on a fire that just needs water instead. And so instead, I'm texting someone or silently calling someone, letting them know to come down to my room. And my instructions for that person that they've been given ahead of time is to not make a big deal out of this also. The last thing you need is some hothead coming in your room and going,
oh, Timothy, over here, you come with me.
Nobody needs that. It doesn't help the kid. Instead, coming in, Tim, can I see you in the hallway for a second? Yeah, cool, you're good. No, you can leave your things or you can bring your things or whatever. Come on in the hallway for a second. And then that's it. They know to not blow the situation up. When that student's in your classroom, it's having very clear expectations and outcomes. There is no wiggle room. So by the time we get to this situation with this particular student, I have very little wiggle room. So if I give you the first 5 minutes of class to have an assignment done, but you came in 2 minutes late, you do not get an extra 2 minutes, especially if it was an unexcused absence. If it was excused, that's different. You have 5 minutes. I talk in a very flat tone. You have 3 minutes to finish this assignment, so make sure that you get it. If you have questions, please ask me because I want you to be successful. When we move into the next activity, that student can't be out of their seat. They can't be moving around. They can't be asking me questions that are off topic. I have answers for every potential question a student has. So if they ask me about their grade, if they ask me about did I find their assignment, if they ask me why am I not calling on them, why do I always pick on them, that's a great question. Come see me after class or stay a moment after class. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But we're not going to have this conversation now because I have 32 other students in the classroom. Does that make sense to you? The end. If they keep going on and on and on about it, it becomes a situation for somebody else. It is not something I can handle in the given moment. So I want to make sure that we're getting that. This is not a student that does this a one-off. This is not a every once in a while. These are students that come into class and pose these same difficulties day in and day out, that there is clearly something else going on. This is not about your class. It is not about you. It is something in their life, in their story, in worlds beyond your classroom that needs healing or attention. And so what we need to do is get them into capable hands that can give them that attention. It's also important that your school, right, so your team that you're contacting, parents, the student, that they know that there is a cure for ailing grades, for ailing behaviors. I want students to know that should you make a shift, if you choose to come to class and act appropriately, and we're not taking any big stretch here, right? It's like just kind of basic behavioral modification in class. If you come into class and you're ready to go, I'm always ready for you. That I need to be able to, as an adult, as the teacher, be able to shift on a dime if you show up ready to work. That when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and having a solution for their ailing grade as well. So I want to be able to tell kids and have a list, have a menu ready of when you can retake things, what can be retaken, what can't, what can we do before the end of the quarter or the trimester. So you have a plan in place when that kid is ready so that they aren't just lost for the rest of the year. So they're not just going to fail the year, especially this early on, but that parents know this, that administrators know this, that students know this, that is your olive branch of here's what we can do. I'm willing and ready to help you in any way that I possibly can, but you need to be able to step up and work with me to help you help yourself. Now, before you go, there's two really important reminders here. And the first one is that oftentimes students have situations that are more than we can possibly handle, either because it's beyond your level of expertise or because we, again, are teaching all the students, and focusing on one negates all of your other kids in the class. Remember, classroom management isn't just about stopping inappropriate behavior. It's about creating a safe and appropriate classroom that is an optimal learning environment for all of your students. When we have students that refuse to comply with reasonable classroom management expectations or reasonable behavior expectations, you need to remember, and they need to remember, that this request isn't just about them, because it doesn't just affect them, it affects the entire class. That if you have a student that is acting inappropriately, it's not just stopping them from not getting their work done and them not finding success, it is creating a whole host of other potential issues for every other student around them. Because when we're dealing with that, how many other students are you not helping? How many other kids can't pay attention because of their outbursts? What other kids might feel threatened by their behaviors? And again, if you feel like you're afraid that you might get physically attacked by a student, what's going to stop them from attacking or assaulting another student in class? Facing your fears, getting that student the help that they need, helps you, the student, your entire class, and ultimately your entire school community. I would love to know in the comment section below how many of you have handled this situation too. If you want to jump over to our Facebook group, you can see the conversation going on there as well. This post got a lot of traction. And so I'm just curious, what might be some other tactics, takeaways, ideas that you may have to help students that are really seem impossible, or you feel like you're in an impossible situation, to help figure that out. That's it for this one, gang.